We are talking about reducing the Premier League to 18 teams because I'm getting sick and tired of watching the rubbish at the bottom of the league killing the quality. How good was Liverpool v Man City the other day? An absolute joy to watch. So many great games in the Premier League. But how many irrelevant games are we seeing at the bottom? Still no wins for Southampton, Burnley, Newcastle and Norwich. It's getting ridiculous. How do we get it down to 18, stop all the rubbish games and keep the Premier League at the top and the pinnacle of world football? Now, Cundy, we've had a little chat about it and we've been going on about it for the last sort of couple of hours. How do we do it? Now,
this is the challenge, isn't it?
How do you do it?
Well,
how did you get rid of Norwich?
Well, like you said, it was done back in 94, I think it was. 94-95 season, that's right. I think four teams went down that year and two come up. That's how they did it. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. 4 went down, 2 come up. That was how they called. Yeah. But there's different ways of doing it, I think. I think there are ways of doing it. I think you could still reduce 3 teams, have 2 come up, and then have a playoff place. So the top one comes up. You relegate 3. Whoever finishes 4th bottom has a playoff with the second place side in the Championship.
So there's no playoff in the Championship?
Only for one season.
For one season.
But the only playoff you'd get, whoever finishes second, they would then play off with the 4th bottom team in the Premier League.
They do this in Bundesliga, right? We'll speak to Kevin Hatchard a bit later, but that's something they do, right?
That's right.
To get up from the second division,
that's right, second tier. That's right.
To get into the Bundesliga, they have to play a team that finishes 4th from bottom.
I think I'm not quite sure. I think only 2 teams get relegated in the Bundesliga. Right. I think that's how it works. I'm pretty sure that's how they do it.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Let's head to Paul, who's a Rochdale fan. Paul, good evening.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're just talking about this 18-team division. What's your take on it?
Obviously, I see where you're coming from, but I think that the sort of idea of it's flawed because you might be able to get rid of a team for one season, but there's nothing stopping the likes of Norwich and whoever else coming back in. If they're successful in the Championship, they're going to come back in, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you would have thought, though, that because in theory, you're making the Championship stronger, right?
In what way?
Well, because you've now got 4 teams 2 teams that were originally in the Premier League, plus there's going to be 3 of them that drop out every season. Therefore, it's harder to come up from the Championship. You would have thought.
That's a fair point, yeah. But the thing is, though, it's shown that the past couple of seasons that Norwich just seem to dominate. So, Jamie, I don't think they're going to. I think they'll come back. Do
you think you can't get something you stepped on in the bottom of your shoe, and you're walking around going, "What's that? What's that smell?" It's Norwich. They're back.
Oh, I mean, I don't have to worry about it with Rochdale, but yeah, they'll be coming back for you, Jamie.
Just keep coming back. Just keep coming back.
Yeah. What's that? It's Norwich.
While I'm on,
go on.
Can I just say a quick shout out to the Up the Dale, Not for Sale guys that are doing incredible work in trying to ward off a second hostile takeover. So just want to give them a big shout out. If you can, the Up the Dale, Not for Sale on Twitter. If you could just say big up them.
All right, well done, Paul. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Paul.
Let's go to Alex, who's an Oxford United fan. Alex, good evening.
Good evening, lads.
How are you?
Well,
doing well.
Look, we're talking about this 18-team division and trying to how do we do it, and is it the right thing to do? Because I feel like there's too many irrelevant games that happen and too many teams that are just not good enough to be in the Premier League.
And also, it's not just for that. It's also to reduce the amount of games.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it makes sense on more than one level. It makes sense because you could then free up the midweek games. There's going to be, I think there's at least 2, possibly 3 midweek full Premier League fixtures. You could get rid of those in a heartbeat.
Yeah, my point. Well, one of my points is one. I kind of agree with the guy before with saying I still think Norwich would just still end up coming back up every other year, and it'll just be they'll always seem to do well in the Championship.
Should we just ban Norwich from coming up? Huh? It should just be a ban.
It's not just them.
Just ban Norwich. You're not allowed in the Premier League if you're not going to compete.
But you're always going to find there's always going to be someone that finishes bottom, right? That has to happen, right? There's always going to be a worse team, so that inevitably has to happen. But when I saw that stat yesterday that Billy brought in, and you think to yourself, that's only the second time in top flight English football history in over 100 years that's happened. Does that not make you think, Alex? Does it not make you think about that perhaps the quality of teams coming up now is not improving?
See, I think it's almost the opposite, because if the fact that it's only the second time in nearly 100 years that it's been this bad, you got likes of Sheffield. I know obviously we're a one-season wonder, but Leeds and other teams that started doing really well actually in their first seasons and kicking on in the Premier League. Like, if you do this, you lose the chances of teams like Leicester coming up, and then the next year, I know it's an anomaly of winning the league, obviously the year after whatever they came up, but it's less likely to happen now because, and like for me as an Oxford United
I don't know, Alex.
Less likely for it to ever get into the Premier League ever.
Well, like I said, the other stat that I gave is that Huddersfield and Norwich, the last time those two sides were relegated, between them, okay, over 2 seasons, they only managed 8 wins and 37 points between them. I don't know. I think the evidence suggests actually that. But there is a trend starting to appear. Sheffield United last season, I mean, when they get the first win, was it Christmas?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they didn't win a game. But I love Sheffield United.
I love Sheffield. I mean,
You know?
I was staying at Christmas. They're still going to stay up. I thought they were going to get out of it somehow.
Yeah,
and then even in January, they still got a chance. They might stay up.
It went down. Let's go to Michael, who's a Chelsea fan. Michael, good evening.
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, we're good.
I mean, I completely agree, reduce the number of teams. There are far too many teams just, bumping along there. But I'd go even one stage further, is I'd do a split mid-season like they did in Scotland a few years ago and have the top half playing off against each other and the bottom half playing off against each other from the halfway point of the season on.
So you play each other once?
Yeah, I don't know how they did it. I can't remember how they did it, but it just seems to me a more relevant way. So the top teams are playing, in every game kind of like related to Europe potentially, and the bottom teams are playing with the threat of relegation all the time. That might shake it up a bit. But you're right, it does need shaking up, definitely. In terms of reducing the teams, I mean, I'll just make an arbitrary decision. I'd relegate Palace. They've been hanging around for too long doing nothing.
You can't.
Because I don't like Liverpool.
So you want to get rid of Norwich? You want to get rid of Palace? Are doing all right at the moment, actually. Palace are doing okay.
Palace don't do nothing. They win 1 game in 5.
Yeah, but they're doing all right. They're a little bit different this season, I think.
Crystal Palace have been in the Premier League for how long? You can't just get rid of them because you don't like them.
Yeah, well, but they haven't done nothing. They just come 15th all the time, don't they?
You just say bob about in the Premier League.
Bob about.
Yeah, they win 1 in 5, don't they? And that's it. But and Liverpool as well, because I don't like them.
Well, okay, so see where you're going with that one.
All right, we'll keep your calls coming in. 03717 223344.